With less than 10 days to go of the FAWNL season, it's now a case of who can hold their nerve. Yes, welcome along to this week's Women's Football Chat, the show dedicated to the FAWNL. My name is Chris Gadsby. I'm here every week at 6 p.m. on a Thursday to bring you the very latest from the third and fourth tiers of women's football in England. That is the FAWNL and the 6 divisions that it encompasses. First of all, my apologies that this hasn't come out yesterday. I had a world of recording issues. The microphone was just picking up a load of static and it was just causing no end of problems, really. The bits and pieces from random places, so it was a very awkward one, and I couldn't kind of piece it together really. So we're recording again on the Friday, which does give us the advantage of having those 2 Thursday games played, so the show will stay a little bit more up to date for 2 days rather than a few hours. So yes, plenty to go through. We're going to start though with the news, as we always do. 2 bits of news. First off, with Peterborough United, the club have parted company with women's manager Dan Lawler. Now, Peterborough say that despite the significant investment and ever-growing partnership within the club, our women's first team have fallen below the standards that were set at the start of the season. Now, Peterborough United are currently 3rd in Division 1 Midlands, and they lost the County Cup final at the weekend to Northampton. So the general manager, Sam Winch, wants to express his gratitude to Dan for his hard work and commitment over recent seasons, as well as his dedication to developing the current squad. So that's what Peterborough said. Dan Lawler then came out and said that he was disappointed with the way it was handled. Let me just find that again. There it is. He says that he didn't think he would be writing a post like this at this stage of the season. Just 2 league games left, 3rd in the league, as I've mentioned, the best ever finish as a National League club. To be removed as a manager is all part of the game, and football isn't always fair or right. But for this to be done over the phone when a meeting was set for tomorrow, that would have been yesterday, it really hurts. He's given so much time as a volunteer to the women's first team at Peterborough United, and I feel incredibly disappointed with the way it's been done. However, I'm genuinely leaving with my head held high. I took over the team 2 and a bit years ago when the club was staring down the barrel of relegation. The team I've built leaves me feeling very proud of the position I leave the club in. I'm gutted. I can't thank the players in person, but they all know how I feel about them. For everyone that has been a part of my journey here, thank you all so much for everything. You've been amazing from start to finish. This is all part of my journey, and who knows what will happen next. So 2 kind of very different sides to the story there, in that Peterborough have just said we've let him go, and he's come out and said, well, actually, you've done it over the phone when we had an in-person meeting, and it's a very weird timing, which I can kind of get. Can understand why, if Peterborough have put a lot of investment into the women's team to get into the 3rd tier, that they want to get into the 3rd tier. That's that would have been the aim. They're not going to do that this year, and they've lost in the County Cup final, so I can see why they're unhappy. It is strange doing it with 10 days of the season left to go. With 2 games left to go, you'd have thought you might as well just wait another week, 10 days, get to the end of the season. But they have made that decision. So Peterborough, yes, without a manager going into the final 2 days of the season, that could have a bit of an implication towards the bottom of the table, which we will look at later on. Other piece of news, Lewis have been relegated from the Championship, and so they will play in the Southern Premier Division next season, because both themselves and Watford are very much Southern-based sides. That means that in all likelihood, although it's not been confirmed yet, that the Northern Premier Division would only have 11 teams in it, and therefore Rugby Borough, as the most northern, southern-based side, would move into the Northern Premier Division for next season. As I said, we haven't had that confirmed yet because we are waiting on, well, A, the end of the season, because let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, and B, obviously the teams coming up from Tier 5, and how is that going to affect the Midlands and the North, and then you've got to look at the Northern Premier Division. I mean, it's not going to be a case of one of the teams coming up from southeast or southwest is going to be the most northerly, because you're looking at Wimbledon from southeast, who of course are London, and either Exeter or Bournemouth, who are both very much southern based. So I think it is extremely likely that Rugby Borough will be in the Northern Premier Division next season. Speaking then of the Northern Premier Division, one of its sides took home some silverware at the weekend, because Cambridge United were defeated by 3-0 by Derby County in the final of the FAWNL Plate. Goals in this one: Eleanor Ashton in the 32nd minute, Amy Sims 45+1, and Emily Joyce in the 87th minute. So 3-0 Derby County beat Cambridge United, and they took the FAWNL Plate 2 years after their East Midlands rivals Forest did it. So yes, congratulations to Derby. At least they got some silverware for the season, because their league campaign has not been the greatest this year. Northern Premier Division then, but we'll kind of race through these, because at the bottom of the table, because obviously everything's been decided in Tier 3, these games are all kind of nothing games really. AFC Fylde 2, Huddersfield 1. Chung Chan in the 8th minute and Cody Thomas in the 15th minute for AFC Fylde. Rebecca Beresford in the 28th minute for Huddersfield Town, getting a goal back. Burnley beating Liverpool Feds by 3-0. Brenna McPartlin in the 15th minute, an own goal in the 33rd, and Rima Lord Mears in the 80th. Halifax, good point for them, a 0-0 draw with Newcastle, who it seems may have taken their foot off the gas a little bit since getting their promotion into the Championship. West Bromwich Albion, despite going a goal up through Delphi Cole in the 3rd minute, fell by 2-1 to Stoke City. Rosine Kivell, 27th minute, Heidi Logan, 38th minute there. And then a big one at New Bucks Head. Wolves 4, Forest 3. What's significant about this game is that Luann Worsley in the 10th minute, Sophie Domingo in the 45th, and Holly Jade Manders in the 58th. Forest were 3-0 up in this game just before the hour mark, before Amber Hughes in the 59th, Beth Merrick in the 71st, Olivia Ferguson in the 90th, and Beth Merrick again in the 93rd pulled off a terrific comeback for Wolves, and they win by 4-3. And what that does, it is a terrific comeback, and it actually brings on to one of the questions for this week's show, and that is from Nick, who says, is Wolves' comeback from 3-0 down to win 4-3 the comeback of the season in the FAWNL this year? So I've been through the results from the league this season, and I've got a kind of two-part answer to Nick's question. Short answer, yes, I think it is. Long answer, yes, I think it is, but not every game has times on all of the goals, and there are, you know, as we know, it's really difficult to chase teams and get them to put the info up. So of the games where I can find all of the information and goal timings and everything like that, yes, it is. There is the caveat that there might be the odd game where a similar comeback has happened, but I'm pretty sure not in that same time frame and from that number of goals back. So short answer, yes. think it is the comeback of the year in the FAWNL. Wolves then beating Derby on Wednesday by 5-1. No such comeback needed this time. Olivia Ferguson in the 4th minute, Tammy George in the 45th. Oh, sorry, Beth Merrick in the 20th, then Tammy George in the 45th. Amber Hughes in the 70th, and Merrick again from the penalty spot in the 90th. Camille Jenkins with the only goal for Derby, losing by 5-1. This was the day after their awards night as well, which may explain a little bit of that result. And then last night's game at Shirebrook, because they needed a neutral venue. Halifax 2, Forest 1. It has been a shocking week for Forest in the FAWNL. They took the lead again, Freya Thomas in the 8th minute. With the opening goal for Forest, but then Halifax 2 goals in the final 12 minutes. Firstly to Ellie White from the penalty spot, and then Meg Boydell just 2 minutes from time, meant Halifax take the win over Forest, who, as I said, have had an appalling week in the FAWNL. What that means for the table, again, we will really race through this because everything's been decided, but Wolves are now, with a game in hand and a goal difference that is definitely catchable, are only 3 points behind Forest, with Wolves have 2 games to go, Forest just the 1. Halifax, with that win, have climbed up to 8th. They're above Derby County, who really seem to slip down the order. They do have 2 games to go and can still get to 29, so could still rescue a top half finish if other results go their way. Stourbridge with just a game to go. Huddersfield and Fylde, obviously with Fylde winning that game, their first win of the season coming against Huddersfield there, but they are still 2 points away from not finishing bottom of the table. Let's move through then to the Southern Premier Division. Again, we'll relatively race through this because, again, Premier Division in the south is the same as the north. It's all wrapped up, not really too much to write home about. So we'll start with Ipswich 4, Cardiff City 2. Cardiff 2-1 up at half time in this one, thanks to 2 goals from Ellie Sargent in the 12th and the 29th minute. But one from Lucy O'Brien from the penalty spot in the 38th made it 2-1 before half time. And then some late goals for Ipswich. Maisie Barker in the 74th minute, O'Brien again in the 80th, and then in the 91st, hat-trick for her, means Ipswich win by 4-2. 1-1 draw between Billericay Town and Plymouth Argyle. Billericay took the lead in this one just before half-time through Maddie Biggs, before Catherine Dixon in the 78th minute equalised for Plymouth. Portsmouth, a bit of a scare early on in this one, but they end up getting the win thanks to an Ella Humphrey hat-trick. They did find themselves behind twice in this game to Cheltenham. Henna Butcher in the 5th minute put Cheltenham ahead before Portsmouth equalised in the 22nd. Butcher again then in the 42nd. They go in at half-time 2-1 up. Humphrey gets her brace in the 57th, and then 10 minutes later gets what would prove to be the game-winning goal as Portsmouth win 3-2. Rugby, 5-0 winners over London Bees. Their goals starting early. Lily Greenslade in the 3rd minute, then Yasmin Mosby in the 58th, Nikki Potts in the 69th, Samantha Kerwood-Wagner in the 79th, just after Angelina Nixon in the 76th minute. The points shared and a goal apiece between Oxford and MK Dons, but a late equaliser for MK Dons here. Nicola Gibson in the 58th minute and Gemma Biggerdike in the 90+1 minute for Milton Keynes Dons. Hashtag United in the later kickoff, beating Chatham Town by 1-0. Grace Gillard with the goal there in the 65th minute. Not quite as much of a dominant performance as we've seen from Hashtag over this season, but perhaps once that league title was definitely gone, much like some of the other teams, they've just started to take their foot off the gas a little bit and try and protect the players from injury so much in a game that is nothing for either side. What that means for the table, the only movement in it is that Ipswich are up to 4th. They are above Oxford now as the Southern Premier Division. Everybody's played 21. There are no games in the league this weekend. And then, of course, everyone just plays on the final day of the season. But there's a lot of teams that are going to stay exactly where they are, whatever happens on that final day. Portsmouth guaranteed top, hashtag guaranteed second, Rugby guaranteed third, Ipswich and Oxford might swap, but MK Dons are guaranteed sixth. The bit of movement there in kind of 7, 8, 9, 10. But then the two teams at the bottom that are already down are going to stay where they are. So there's not a lot that's going to happen in the Southern Premier Division. But yeah, it's an interesting one. And then it brings me nicely on to another question, which was from Mark Lancaster, who follows hashtag United, and he asked me, what next year, which of the two tier 3 leagues is going to be the hardest to get promoted from, and which is going to be the hardest to survive in? And I was thinking about this, and I kept coming back to, I think the North is going to be harder to get promoted out of, because I think the calibre of team in the North, you've got your Burnleys, your Forest and your Wolves, who are always going to be there. I feel like Rugby Borough, it's highly likely, as I said, they'll move into the North. So then I think you've got 4 teams there that are very strong. And then if some of the other teams decide to put investment in, which seems to be, the North seems to be catching up to the South in general terms. If you look at like into the Championship and into the Super League as well, there are the teams from the South seem to be more of them. So I think, particularly if you then put in let's say Stoke put more money in, let's say Derby put a load of money in, you've got then that, particularly because Derby are getting promoted in the men's game, it looks like it looks as though that's probably going to be, as it seems to be every year, those teams up towards the top, and it's going to get quite tight towards the top at times and difficult to get out of. But then it all stems back to what I said, was it last week's show or 2 weeks ago, that worries me then about if it is sustainable. Is it sustainable for these teams to be pumping all this money in and not getting promoted at the end of it because there is only one spot? Everybody thought it was going to be Newcastle this year because they went fully pro and they've done exactly what everybody expected. So that is where I think we need to start looking at Super League and Championship expanding, because then all these teams that have the ambitions of being in the top 2 leagues can just go into the top 2 leagues without having to fight amongst each other for one spot year after year, when teams coming down from the Championship will just keep adding to that pool. But in terms of staying up, you've only got to look at how tight it is at the bottom here in the Southern Premier Division. Take the bottom 2 teams out of it. You've got 6 points in those 6 points separating those bottom 4 teams, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Then you've got to add in a Wimbledon coming up, who I think will have a solid season, but I'm not expecting them to kind of do what hashtag did. Although, to be fair, I didn't expect hashtag to do what hashtag did. And then you've got Exeter or Bournemouth from South West coming into there as well. Now, Exeter pushed Cardiff all the way last year, and look where Cardiff are in the South. So you would expect maybe a similar sort of situation there, where you've got in the South this year, the teams at the top, you've got 8 points separating 2nd from 5th. MK Dons are in no man's land. And then you've got 6 points from 7th to 10th. You add 2 more teams into there that I suspect would probably do better than Chatham and London have done this season. And I think the South is going to be a much harder league to survive in than the North is. But I think the North is probably going to be a harder league to get out of upwards than the South is. What we're really looking forward to is, now Wimbledon have got themselves promoted, is we get that Wimbledon MK Dons derby in the women's game as well as having it in the men's, which is going to be great. Really looking forward to that. But yeah, hope that answers your question, Mark. If you have questions you want to put to the Women's Football Chat show for future weeks, then at WFootball Chat on Twitter is the place to do it. Let's move through then into the interesting section of this week's show, which is going to be Tier 4, because my word, yes, Tier 3 is all done and very boring, but Tier 4 is definitely where it's at. because teams have been struggling to get over the line. Boldmere St Michael's 4, Solihull Moors 1. Nothing game between these two teams. Boldmere still haven't announced their lineup though. But Jade Formerston with a hat-trick, 23rd, 46th, 91st minute, and then Abdallah in the 60th minute with the goal for Boldmere St Michael's. Tiana Russell Cartwright with the only goal for Solihull Moors. Sporting Cowser in that huge fight towards the top of the table, grinding out the win that they needed. Leafield Athletic holding firm for 94 minutes of this game. Could have been a valuable point for them, but Sporting Cowser, Layla Kennelly, 95th minute, gets the goal that gets Sporting Cowser what could prove to be, when we look at the table in a few minutes, a hugely important point. Hugely important 3 points for Sporting Cowser, particularly because Sheffield, who are fighting for their lives at the bottom, drew away at Loughborough Lightning 1-1. Doris Greenwood put Loughborough in front on the 72nd minute, but 1 minute from time, Millie Fugler with an equaliser for Sheffield. Sheffield have now, just to put it into a bit of context for you, yes, they are still in the relegation zone. They're only 1 point from safety. We'll look at that in a minute. But Sheffield have won 7 points out of the last 9 in April to really give themselves a chance. Without those 7 points, they'd be 8 points away from safety by now and relegated a couple of weeks ago. But they've really given themselves the opportunity to really get themselves safe on the final day of the season. We'll look at those, particularly because Notts County, a game they could have targeted against Lincoln, who are only just above them. They lose by 3-1 at Meadow Lane. Goals in this one, Lincoln getting the job done early. Gemma Footit in the 24th minute, Neve Hinks in the 29th, and Lucy Farrow in the 38th. Notts County get one back in the second half, Lauren Wilshaw with that goal, but aren't able to take anything from that game. And then the later kickoff, Leek Town 1, Sutton Coldfield Town 2. 2 in the first half for Phoebe Hopwood, 27th and 35th minute, and then 1 for Cassie Hyde just before half time. So all the scoring done in the first half between those two teams. What that means for the table is Sporting Cowser are top going into the final day, and with a goal difference that is 19 better than Loughborough Lightning's. So Sporting Cowser know a win on the final day of the season, and we will look at that more next week, but a win on the final day of the season means Sporting will be in the Northern Premier Division next season. It is between those two. Peterborough now can't catch them after the weekend. Down towards the bottom, Sheffield no longer bottom of the table. Leek Town are there now, but both of those sides, Leek with 2 to go, Sheffield with 1 to go, can still get themselves safe. Leafield Athletic, how valuable would that point have been against Sporting Cowser? It would have put them 3 clear of the relegation zone with a game to play against Sheffield, and they'd be 4 clear of Leek Town. But as it stands, and the goal difference favours both of the teams in the relegation zone, just a win for either of those teams would leapfrog Leafield Athletic. Lincoln are now safe, so it is 2 from 4 at the bottom and 1 from 2 at the top. Other movement, Sutton Coldfield Town against Solihull Moors. They jump a place. That doesn't really matter. You can see there, everybody's played 21, apart from Peterborough and Leek. That is the only game in the Midlands this weekend. Division 1 North then, and again, teams just can't get over the line. Both teams that are in this promotion race have squandered opportunities this weekend, but we'll start with Doncaster Rovers Bells against FC United of Manchester. This was on Saturday night at the Eco Power Stadium. Doncaster winning by 3-0. Hannah McWilliams in the 10th minute, Megumi Shenton in the 70th, and Molly Barlow in the 90th minute. What that result has done is relegate FC United of Manchester into Tier 5 again. So they really have yo-yoed. They were in Tier 4 2 years ago, went down to Tier 5, came straight back up, and now they're going straight back down again. So very much a yo-yo side at the moment. Chorley beating Barnsley by 2-1. Again, a late winner here, as Barnsley really have struggled in recent weeks. They took the lead through Eve Marshall in the 38th minute, but that lasted for just 4 when Megan Searson got the goal back in the 42nd minute. Saffron Newhouse, the winner then for Chorley in the 95th minute. Big 3 points for them. Durham Sestra beating Chester Street Town by 3-0. Jennifer Knowles in the 24th minute, Abby Holmes in the 65th, and Victoria Newfiend in the 75th minute with the goals for Durham Sestra, as Chester Street Town's battle to survive looks to be going down to the final day. Then we get to the teams at the top who had a great opportunity to put one hand on the trophy and one foot in the Northern Premier Division, and squandered it. Hull City, you really would have thought, and I said it last week, that they would get the 3 points against York City, but York holding firm, particularly away from home. Helen Linsky with the opening goal for Hull City in the 17th minute, but right after half-time, Jess Holder with the goal for York City to make it 1-1, and it stayed 1-1 for the remainder of the game. Hull dropping points and really closing and keeping this title race alive, because Middlesbrough had to rescue, and it really is rescue, a point against Norton and Stockton Ancients. They found themselves with just 7 minutes to go, 3-1 behind. Goals in this one to Cara Milne Redhead in the 21st minute, Bianca Owens in the 69th, and Erin Boyle in the 78th for Norton and Stockton Ancients. Lauren Robson had got 1 in the 63rd minute for Middlesbrough, but with 7 minutes to go, Middlesbrough are 3-1 down. And this is where I'm saying, Hull really had the chance to almost, drive the knife in and put the final nail in the coffin, because they missed out on their chance to get 3 points when Middlesbrough were really struggling there. Now, granted, games at the same time, communication, coaching staff not knowing necessarily, etc., etc. Robson in the 83rd and Faye Dale in the 90th rescues that point for Middlesbrough. And then another 3-3 draw between Stockport and Leeds United. Goals here to Kennedy Owen in the 20th minute from the spot and the 80th, and to Jessica Gillen in the 45th for Stockport. And then for Leeds, Ellie Dobson in the 13th, Jessica Rizou in the 56th, and Katie Astle in the 82nd. What that means for the North table is it's all kind of very much the same at the top, but this is kind of what I'm getting at with these teams, because Middlesbrough would have gone top if they'd have won. Granted, having played a game more, but they would have gone top had they'd have won. Hull City, had they'd have won, would be 3 points clear of Middlesbrough with a better goal difference. Middlesbrough would have had to have won on the final day by 4 or 5 goals. Hope Hull lose their final 2 games to go up. So it really would have put Hull in the driving seat. But as it is, it remains a 1-point gap between the two. Durham now can't make it. It is just those two, Hull or Middlesbrough. And it's still very much with Hull, because they've got 2 games to go and know that 1 win in those 2 games will give them the title. The first of those games obviously being this weekend away at Leeds. The other advantage Hull have got, if they don't get it done against Leeds, they have FC United of Manchester on the final day of the season. You would think they would get it done there. Middlesbrough, as I said, pretty much, well, they have to win their final game of the season. They have to, because a draw won't do it unless Hull lose both of their games significantly. I'm talking 3-0. Middlesbrough's final game of the season is at home to York City. Now, you would think, okay, fine, they'll probably get the win there. Yes, they will probably get the win there, but York also just went and got a point against Hull. And York City are also fighting for their lives. If you look down towards the bottom, FC United Manchester, relegated, fine. Chorley in 9th, safe. It is one of either York City or Chester Street Town. York City have got the 2-point advantage and the better goal difference. But because it's only 2 points, Chester Street Town with a win would overtake York. Chester Street Town, their 2 games remaining. Chorley at home, Leeds United away. York, as we've already established, Middlesbrough on the final day, and then Stockport away as well. So Chester Street Town have probably got the easier run in, but York have been battling hard in getting these. You would sense that if York could get a point, probably, from either of their final 2 games, that might just do it because of the better goal difference. It would force Chester Street Town to get something out of both of their games. Definitely one to watch. Gut instinct says York will just about survive, and the 2 teams that came up from Tier 5 will go back to Tier 5 again in Division 1 North. Gut instinct still says that because Hull are playing FC United of Manchester on the final day of the season, even if they don't get it done this weekend, they will probably get it done on the final day. But we'll have to wait and see on that. Right, Division 1 South East. If you wanted draws, this was the place to go. Actonians 3, London Seaward 3. Goals in this one to Torrey St Clair in the 8th minute. Now, this was an interesting one because you couldn't get all of the information. So I could give you times or I could give you scorers, but I couldn't match them up for London Seaward. So I've given you scorers. Torrey St Clair in the 8th minute, Amber Dredge in the 60th, and Amina Hanif in the 65th for Actonians. Goals for London Seaward coming to Samantha Lanza, Catherine Long, and Ray Laudat. Goals in the Ashford Town 3, Haywards Heath Town 1 game will be presented shortly when full-time decides it wants to behave again. But Ashford Town going 3-0 up in this game thanks to goals from Cheatley in the 66th, Dern in the 67th and Moore in the 81st. Haywards Heath Town do get one back in the 84th minute, but obviously Haywards Heath Town already down. Okay, so yeah, Ashford Town beating Haywards Heath Town by 3-1. Chesham United 2, Queen's Park Rangers 2. Early goal for Chesham United in this one. Eleanor Walker-Smith in the 3rd minute. And then Gemma Fraser in the 55th minute. For Queen's Park Rangers, Courtney Ward-Chambers in the 18th and Grace Stanley in the 87th. So a back and forth game in that one. Chesham twice taking the lead, twice being pegged back. Norwich City, 4-1 winners over AFC Sudbury. They did their part to try and keep the title race going, despite Sudbury taking the lead for Aliat Lam in the 24th minute. But goals then, 2 for Natasha Snelling in the 32nd and the 70th minute, 1 for Lauren Hales in the 63rd, and then 1 for Kerry Fly in the 67th minute. A relatively comfortable 4-1 win for Norwich in the end. Wimbledon, though, went into the weekend knowing that they just needed a point in order to win the league and get themselves promoted, and the point is exactly what they got. They took the lead through Sky Bacon away at Worthing in the 39th minute. Shannon Albury then in the 41st minute equalised for the home side before Hannah Billingham in the 57th minute put Wimbledon back in front, and Samantha Quayle then in the 67th minute put Worthing back level. But that is how it stayed, and that point was enough for Wimbledon to get themselves promoted into Tier 3 for next season. Queen's Park Rangers 3, London Seaward 3. This was a Wednesday night game. No lineup for London Seaward. Couldn't find it on Twitter anywhere. They didn't do Twitter updates. Queen's Park Rangers didn't say who scored. We have times. So London Seaward scored in the 32nd, the 73rd and the 90+4th minute. Queen's Park Rangers, this was a very back and forth game. So Kasha Pettit in the 28th minute put QPR in front. Seaward then equalised. Then Courtney Ward-Chambers put QPR back in front. Seaward then equalised. 2 minutes later, they go in front again through Amelia Parsons in the 75th minute, and then London Seaward equalised late on. Doesn't do a lot for the table. In fact, it does nothing for the table because nobody has moved in the southeast table, but AFC Wimbledon confirmed as champions. They'll be playing in Tier 3 next season. Norwich then will definitely be second. Worthing will definitely be third. QPR, Actonians and Ashford Town could move about a little bit. Cambridge United, I suppose, could get into there as well, as could London Seaward. They could climb one place. Chesham and Sudbury could swap, but Cambridge City and Haywards Heath Town taking up the final 2 places there. So Division 1 South East all done as well. So 3 leagues all done and dusted. 3 leagues still to go. Division 1 South West then, we will start not with the midweek fixtures. We'll start with the weekend fixtures. AFC Bournemouth 18, Chelsea 0. Another big victory for them. So they go with Molly Clark in the 4th minute, Gemma McGuinness in the 9th, Erin Bloomfeld in the 16th, the 70th and the 78th. Then we go to Maisie Smith in the 21st. Then in the 23rd, Lucy Cooper. Chloe Gilroy then gets in on the action. 27, 31, 49, 51 and 83. Then goals for Alicia Buckingham, 71, 80 and 90. And then goals for Bowers as well, Kelsey Bowers, 73rd, 88th and 90th. So 1, 2, 3, 4 hat-tricks in that game for Bournemouth. Chelsea, of course, losing yet again. Swindon Town 2-0 away winners at Abingdon United. Gypsy Vivace with the 47th and 54th minute goals for Swindon in that one. Exeter City 5, Bridgewater United 0. Goals in this one then: Sophie Gillies in the 24th minute, Jenna Markham in the 32nd and the 74th, Ishbel Zermond in the 45th +1, and Connie Pengelly in the 67th minute. Maidenhead United 2-1 winners against Keynsham Town. Again, Keynsham Town, they don't tweet. The lineup's not on full time yet. I know they scored in the 58th minute because that's what Maidenhead said, but we don't know who scored. Goals in this one, then Megan Halfacree in the 6th minute, Isabella Stockton in the 35th minute. Maidenhead winning by 2-1. And then we go through to Moneyfields beating Southampton Women's by 6-0. Goals in this one too: Kimberly Fuller in the 25th minute, Karohina Taylor in the 26th, the 61st and the 89th minute, so a hat-trick for her. Megan Fox in the 32nd and Charlie Wilson-Wilton in the 71st. And a good 4-0 victory for Portishead Town against Torquay United. Big game towards the bottom, that one. Rosie Hill with a hat-trick, 15th, 35th and 52nd minute, and one for Shannon Holloway in the 22nd minute. Means that Portishead got 3 points in the game that Torquay really needed to win. Now then, let's have a look at the midweek fixtures. Portishead Town 0, Bridgewater United 4. Goals in this one to Ellie Bell, Fiona Barry, Chloe Snook and Holly Tappin, but no idea on the times on that one at all. And then last night, Moneyfields against AFC Bournemouth. The information's not on full time yet, but it was only last night. Bournemouth through Thompson taking the lead in the 10th minute. Kenny Thompson, that one, in the 10th minute. And then Molly Barron-Clark in the 28th minute. Put Bournemouth back in front after Taylor, yet again, her 26th of the season, I want to say it is. I'll just double check that because I know I only looked it up yesterday. It's been a tremendous season in front of goal. Yeah, 26 goals in 26 games for Taylor. That's in league and cup. I should point that out. In the league, it's 22 goals in 19 games. So what a terrific season she has had. What that means for the table then, Bournemouth are top. It also means that no matter what Exeter do with their game in hand this weekend, the title in Division 1 Southwest will come down to the final day of the season when Exeter host Bournemouth. And isn't that brilliant? It is sold out. The BBC are even going to commentate on it. It's going to be a terrific game. Will Exeter have the advantage going into that game, or will Bournemouth have the advantage? Well, Exeter are away at Portishead Town this weekend. You would expect them to win. If they win, they have the advantage. If they draw, they'll have the advantage because of goal difference. So you would suspect, unless Exeter suddenly lose, and neither of the sides have lost all season, it's going to be Exeter who have the advantage going into final day, and they're at home. So it's going to be tough for Bournemouth, but it's going to be a terrific game. And if you are lucky enough to get a ticket, you're going to have a wonderful time. So elsewhere then, many teams have kind of finished, or pretty much finished any movement they can do. Moneyfields are guaranteed to finish third. Swindon are going to finish fourth because, yes, Abingdon are 6 points behind with 2 to go, but they are not going to make up 60 goals in 2 games. Abingdon and Bridgewater United are pretty much going to stay where they are, you would think. Keynsham could catch up to them with their 2 to go. Maidenhead in 27 points. You're probably going to finish 8th. Portishead have still got 3 games left to play, but they can't get any higher than 9th. Portishead have only got 2 games left to play. That should be 20 games played, 41 and 17. Southampton women, Torquay and Chelsea all on 21. But Torquay now have to win on the final day of the season to stand a chance of staying up. And they host Swindon Town, who are 4th. Now, Swindon have nothing to play for, but Torquay must win. A point for Southampton women's, and they are taking on Maidenhead United, is enough to keep them safe. So Torquay United must win in order to stay up. Again, we'll look at this in much more detail when everybody's played 21, because next week when we look ahead at those fixtures, that is what we are going to be mainly focusing on. We will really gloss over, there's barely any fixtures, but we'll really gloss over the 3 leagues where nothing's left to play for, and really concentrate on these leagues where there is. With that in mind then, and we've covered the questions for this week, we'll have a look at the fixtures then. We'll start in the north. There are 3 of them. Derby against Liverpool Feds, Halifax against Wolves, and Stoke City against Fylde. Yeah, they're all nothing games. Wolves, if they beat Halifax significantly, could climb above Forest. But other than that, again, they're kind of nothing games in the Northern Premier Division. There's nothing in the south, so we'll go through to the Midlands, which just has Peterborough United against Leek Town, 3rd against 12th. Really important game for Leek Town. Peterborough, it means nothing, but could the fact that Peterborough now don't have a manager boost Leek Town? That's the big question for this weekend. Could Leek Town capitalise on this, get themselves a point or a win? A win would be great for Leek Town. They jump from 12th up to 9th in one weekend, and then all of a sudden they're the ones that are in the driving seat for survival. That's how close it is at the bottom of the Midlands. Still 2 from 4. So that's the only game taking place in the Midlands. In the north there are 3, and the north the title could be decided this weekend, because if Hull win away at Leeds, they're the champions. They would be 4 points clear of Middlesbrough with a game to go. Anything other than that, it will go down to the final day. But as I said, Hull are taking on FC United of Manchester. Chester Street Town take on Chorley. This is 11th against 9th. Chorley, of course, are safe. Chester Street Town, if they were to win that game, could put themselves into a safety spot. But York City are also playing their away at Stockport. So it could be, if Chester Street Town win, it's going to go down to the final day. If they draw and York win, they're down. It could obviously still be a 2-point gap. Or Chester Street could lose, York could get a point, and that would probably be enough because the goal difference is going to be about 15. Or Chester Street Town could lose and York could win, and then it would all be done. So the North could be done this weekend, both top and bottom. It could be left with everything still to play for. It depends how the results go. South East, just 2 games. Cambridge against Ashford Town, Cheshire United against Norwich City. Cambridge United 7th, Ashford 6th. They are going to stay where they are regardless, because I can't see the swing being 11 goals. And Cheshire United against Norwich, 9th against 2nd. Again, neither side with anything to play for. Cheshire can't go any higher up the table, neither can Norwich. And then Division 1 South West, 2 games to talk about. Exeter playing their game in hand over Bournemouth. So Abingdon against Keynsham, 5th against 7th, doesn't really matter. And Exeter against Portishead Town. Again, Portishead, nothing to play for, they're now safe. Exeter City, if they get a point or all three, they will be in the driving seat with the advantage going into that game against Bournemouth on the final day of the season. But of course, we will know much more about all of that when we do next week's show. That then will about do it for this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. Thank you to those who sent in questions over the past week. I will be asking you again on Monday if you have any questions that you want to discuss or topics to discuss on next week's show. So we are getting very close to the end of the season now. We have just 2 weekends to go. Then we've also got in the week after that, we've got the FAWNL Awards at Wembley ahead of the Women's FA Cup final. And then once the Tier 5 leagues have all been done, some of those could also get decided this weekend. We've got 4 promoted so far, 4 still to go. Once we know all of those and the season is done and dusted, we're then looking at the summer knockout tournament. But if you are going to a game this weekend, I know there's not a huge amount around, but if you are, then enjoy it. Try and stay dry if you can. And we'll be back next Thursday at 6 p.m. All being well, if the audio sorts itself out. Next Thursday at 6 p.m, bringing you the very latest from the FAWNL ahead of what will sure to be a thrilling final weekend of the season. But for now, goodbye.